we've talked about home loans, auto loans, and the most important, given that we're just breaking into summer holidays, is education loan. Now, we have with us Feroze Azeez to talk to us about the do's and don'ts of your education loans. Feroze, very good timing with this because we've just broken into summer holidays. Most people are aspiring to study. If you look at the cost of education today and compare to what it was 10 years ago, there's a huge inflation factor that's played out. And education today costs a lot more than it did even 5 years ago.
Correct. I think education loan, I very strongly feel, is the biggest investment you can do on yourself, right? If, like Modi ji says, "Achhe din," we also have to do something for the achhe din, is to make ourselves trained to prosper. So point one, education loan is one very, very sweet and good loan to take. Point two, education inflation, especially when education is inflating at very rapid paces. A 2 lakh rupee MBA today costs about 15 to 20 lakhs in just 15 years. That is not 5% inflation, it's significantly more. So you will need to get funded to take care of such inflation numbers. So I think it's important.
Right. In terms of education loan, what all does it cover, Feroze?
It covers your fees, it covers accommodation if it's related to education, like a hostel fee, and several other peripheral food and accommodation and the tuition fee all can get covered depending on the size of the loan.
And one can avail an education loan only for an MBA or post-graduation, or undergraduation also gives you the option of availing an education loan?
Undergraduation also has the provision of most banks actually offer you even for an undergrad course education.
And
loan.
This is education worldwide, including India, obviously.
Correct. So if there is Indian education, the rules are marginally different. If it's global, it's different. In Indian, you will have to chip in only 5% of the total expense. Global, if it can be as high as 15-20%.
Who is the main borrower? Is the student the borrower or the parents?
It has to be the primary applicant would be the student, and the second applicant or the co-applicant would be a parent or a legal guardian.
Right. In terms of eligibility, who all are eligible to avail education loan? I know in principle all of us would be, a student would be, but what is it that one needs to keep in mind before they go out there and apply for an education loan successfully?
See, if it's below 4 lakhs, then the eligibility is reasonably easily established. 4 to 7.5 lakhs, you will need a guarantor along with you. Above 7.5, this is the normal practice. Above 7.5, you might also need to chip in some collateral to make the bank feel more secure that this money is going to come back to them.
Any sort of result-oriented, performance-oriented education loans, or it's got nothing to do with that really?
No, I think those are more scholarship kinds. I think education loans should be performance. This is such a good suggestion for a change. But unfortunately today it's not on the capability of the students' merit of education, but on the capability of the repayment of the course as well.
Right. Also, I believe you said that a few banks actually offer women a discount in interest rates. Is that true?
Fortunately, as I think promoting education for women and girls is very important. So 0.25 to 0.5% discount. Generally, most banks, especially PSUs, would put on the table. What
is the process of applying for an education loan and then, of course, getting it? Firstly, of course, you've got to start by applying, and then what happens?
Correct. So it will require a lot of academic documentation to the bank to establish that you are a student, and secondly, you are a student who has been faring reasonably well. So the difference in the documentation of another loan and this, it will have a lower academic skew towards documentation, and then the co-applicants' financials would come handy to increase your eligibility or to get the loan.
Do you only get the loan once you've secured admission into a university?
There are some aggressive banks who are actually ready to give you a home loan, at least approve of it before you've secured an university and if you discuss the plan. Of course, they will disperse the loan once
you've got acquired admission in a university. Are there any restrictions on age limit, or everybody can be a student here?
So I think that they've been more generous. I think there's no age limit, fortunately. I think self-development can be even after 10 years of work experience, and that doesn't deter.
What about documents required? Any additional documents one needs to put out and give the bank in order to ensure that they avail the education loan?
I think income proofs, ID proofs, address proofs, and academic documents like marks cards and other certificates which you have so far secured are important part of the documentation.
We talked about how in home loans or in auto loans you have to have a down payment, and that's what you recommend. In education loans, do banks finance 100% of the loan? You did say 4 lakhs. 4% I think is what one needs to contribute, is it?
4-5%, but I think there are some banks which will fund you completely.
Okay.
And they will mandate you in certain cases to actually insure the life of the student, so that in case there is some unforeseen event, the bank gets the money and they will make themselves the nominee of the term plan which you have bought.
What's the time horizon for these loans?
Generally, they give you a year to start your payments after you've started working.
A year after you've started working. And if you're availing of education loan for more than 1 year, then every year do you got to reapply, or is that a lump sum payment made by the bank
It's
to the unit?
approved for the 3-year course if it's a 3-year course, and then gets dispersed as and when the payment schedule of the institute comes for payment.
You did say that the repayment starts a year after you've got into the employment cycle, but then how long is the tenure post that?
The tenure
years
could
do
be
you have
as much as 5 years post that.
And what are the kind of interest rates in education loan? Are they a lot more lower, competitive as compared to home or auto?
I think they're more than home, lesser than auto. So about 9.5% is a good rate at which you would be funded.
And you'd go with a fixed rate in that
yes,
case
you
as
should
well.
go with a fixed rate again.
Right. Any sort of benefits under the Income Tax Act if you have an education loan? Because it's got to be sort of encouraging enough for one to avail these education loans.
Correct. So whoever is paying the interest, is it the student or the student who has transformed himself into a professional, or the parent, gets under 80E an unlimited interest deduction from their incomes. So by which I mean, if you have a 2 lakh interest payment, you can deduct this from your salary and save as much as 40 to 60,000 tax, depending on the tax bracket.
Assuming that you've taken this home loan for your children and you're still employed and your child doesn't get into the employment cycle for the next 3 to 4 years, can you choose to start repaying that for your kids as soon as you've availed that loan, and then hence, of course, get an income tax benefit being the co-borrower?
Yes, being a co-borrower, you can pay interest payments and EMIs much before your kid has started earning himself, and the parent would get the 80E benefit for the payment of interest, which is good.
Well, that's all you need to know about education loans. And of course, like we said, it's the summer and you're probably considering going away to study. So use this as a checklist while you determine whether or not you want to go out there and get that education loan.